Wow, it's really bright up here. I'm glad I can't see you guys. I tell you, usually I'm wearing my Superman suit, my chief stripes, and I'm coming up and I'm feeling some way, like I'm invincible. Yesterday, some folks, I come up here to kind of look at this slide because I'm a little blind as well. It's folks, hey, you're going to dance for us, you're going to sing for us. So much talent that's come up here. And I tell you, you guys are making me feel a little worse than, because I don't have that talent. But I tell you, I came into this organization nearly 3 years ago, and being a chief master sergeant in the Air Force, it's less than 1% of our enlisted force that is a chief master sergeant. And I had just put on chief while I was coming into this organization. Additionally, I'm also an Air Force CPI black belt, also less than 1% of the Air Force that does that type of business. Essentially, it's a Lean Six Sigma business for the Air Force, right? So I'm coming into this organization. I got asked, can you come in and please take a look at this organization? We got to move you around. You just made it. You just made chief. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So what's going on? Well, we just relieved the current chief because some toxic stuff that was going on in the organization. So already I had a sense and feel there was something going on there, right? So I come in and I am living in this need to be seen as box, because first I just made chief and I was a CPI guy, right? So yeah, I can come in and take care of it. What do I need to take care of? We're about to do this huge shift and we have these culture issues. I'm like, okay, well, what do you need me to focus on? We need you to focus on culture. And I'm going to leave it right there as I go through and I start explaining to you that I really didn't understand what in God's name I was getting into when I rolled into this organization. And so that's a little bit about myself. That kind of got the jitters out, so I feel a little better. So let me see here. Here we go. So I said I got there in August of 2016, and our chief of staff, which is our number one airman of the Air Force, comes and was briefing at the Air Force Association in 2016 and talking about his number one focus area of revitalizing squadrons. And his focus on that is that this is where airmen and their families thrive. This is where training and education happens. This is the environment in which we create the climate for innovation. And at this fundamental level, this is how we achieve the overall mission of the Air Force of fly, fight, and win. In every single squadron, there's over 3,000 squadrons, if you will, in the squadron. And for us, for what we do, being cyber, that's how we do it. We say cyber. Sounds cooler. So we say cyber, right? So there's only 4 organizations that do our business. I'm going to go through our history really quickly in a minute. But the one thing that we latched onto as a team and as a senior leader team of this organization when I came in is that the chief of staff was talking about that. Typically within 5 minutes, when I come in as the chief of staff of the Air Force, I can already sense and feel about how this organization, how it's operating, what its culture is like. Because typically we associate ourselves with the nickname of what the organization is. So for instance, the Bulldogs, we're the Bulldogs, and this is what we stand for. And you can see the sense of pride, and they talk about all the things that make up the organization. Like for me, I can remember when I first came in as an airman back in 22 years ago. I came in as an airman. I remember being a trailblazer. And that was my first organization that I was about. And so I latched on to that particular thing, if you will, as we started working our problem sets in our organization as what does it mean to be, for our organization, our nickname is a cyber Koa. And Koa meaning in Hawaiian, a brave and fearless warrior, right? That's what we latched onto. So I set this up so that I could tell you of how we were born. So we were born of 2 smaller organizations. One was focused as a help desk, specifically around the Pacific Theater. And we did have a little bit of follow the sun model, meaning that we would help other bases. There's over 140 bases throughout the Air Force for those 850,000 airmen that we support. So we had that level of support down at the small organization. And the second organization, well, that was another detachment. And they were focused on very limited IT level support. Now, the IT level support that we would do, there is the base level, which is called Tier 1 support. And at our level, we're Tier 2 support. So we were feeling a little bit, that's right, better than, because we're Tier 2, right? We need to have some sharp people up here. So what ended up happening is that we ended up bringing these 2 organizations together, and we dissolved the help desk, and we increased our regional scope and responsibility. Not only were we doing like email and authentication services, that's what we were doing initially when we were a detachment, we brought on new technology. And we started building up the new technology of such as networking, as storage and virtualization, just a myriad of different things into our organization. We started working on all the training and all the things that were necessary for us to be able to provide that IT level support for the theater where we were working, which was 10 bases of the 140, and we would provide support for the other bases as necessary, as long as the technology allowed us to. And then all of a sudden, it was April of 2016, we're in the middle of building and doing all these things, and there was this huge shift in how we needed to operate. No longer were we supposed to just be focused on IT level support, but we needed to shift to cyber operations. And back in the intro, what was briefed to you guys is that was really about cybersecurity and about defending the very networks and securing them and protecting them to ensure that all those 850,000 people are able to do their particular job in the Air Force. And that required us to really shift on how we were thinking from an organizational standpoint, as well as how do we transform what we do to have the rigor to start thinking in a different way of how we secure and protect our networks. So the development of our airmen became number one. And we were set a target. That target that was set is that, hey, January 2017, we're going to go move out. Here's what we're telling you. Here's our edicts. Go figure it out. And so we knew that we needed to get it figured out where we're at. So we did a current state assessment of where we're at. And I told you, I got hired on to essentially to take a look at what was going on culturally. So, of course, it was clear we were not aligned how we needed to be in order to execute the mission. Our environment, it was absolutely accepted and bred toxic behaviors. We had gossiping going on. We had backstabbing going on. We had, those things that we typically do when we're in what? The box. And of course, at this time, I had no freaking clue what the boxes were about. And then we had ill-defined control systems and processes. And from a strategy standpoint, when it came down to servicing and helping our customers at those different bases, we had zero measurements, if you will, on how we were doing business. And everything was personality-driven. We had folks that were in the fire, in the trenches, taking care of stuff. And the reason is because we had inconsistent training and development of our people. And these experts that were one deep, single points of failure across the organization. They were heroes. They were firefighters. And we would sit down and truly just honor them. Just, oh, you're so amazing. But what was happening to everybody else? They weren't getting the same level of love. And so I go out, and I told you I was hired on, right, to come and deal with culture. And I thought I knew what that was about. And as I wouldn't tell anybody, oh, my God, what does this mean to go and deal with culture? So I'm out going doing the research, doing everything I need to do, and I keep seeing this quote that's associated with Peter Drucker, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. You guys have all heard that, yes? And so I'm reading through the literature, and here it is. There was no model out there that I knew of and that I was researching that could help me figure out how to get after strategy. So as all the research I was doing, I was just colluding, that's not the right word. I was trying to bring in all the things that I was learning and to figure out how can I help start shifting this organization with the focus that our organizational culture is the fuel that drives our organizational strategy. It is the very fuel, and that has been an ongoing theme that we have been focusing on as we moved out throughout this organization. So since this became a major focus area for us, we went into and actually got after our strategy development, because that's what I was versed in. Sit down, create your mission, your vision, develop your priorities and your objectives and your measurements to get after those activities. So went down and we did all that, right? And we latched on because every good strategy has a great vision. So the commander at the time, who I advise, he's ultimately the authority that drives the organization. He set this vision in that we would be cyber warriors, not IT technicians, cyber. Again, it's kind of Gucci, right? Cyber warriors, and we would be delivering cyber power. Essentially the effects of what we do to ensure that those core missions that the Air Force gets after, that we are providing those services and that support so that we can ensure that we can all fly, fight, and win as an Air Force. And we would be doing it at the right place at the right time. So we latched onto this, and these became our guiding principles, that we would focus on culture because it's just as important as it is on strategy execution. So our journey, right? We broke down and sat down and created this whole strategic plan like I defined to you, and we invested a lot of time and start creating that plan and start executing it. But we also got around and started redefining what it meant to be a cyber COA. We went after our values of our organization. We went after what are our current practices and processes. Are they in alignment with those values or not? What do we need to do to resolve them? What are the expected behaviors of the organization to ensure we need to take care of our vision to move forward? And we were having challenges. So we brought everybody, we started creating this common ground. And so all this research that I was telling you about, it took about a year of training as we were doing. We would shut down operations, and we would bring in folks, and we would train them on, all right, let's get some self-awareness training. So we brought in all these folks to come do self-awareness training. All right, they're self-aware. And then we would go and we'd bring in, all right, we got to start collaborating and working together. Let's do some team building. So we did a bunch of team building. We did all this stuff, and it was amazing. And then we said, hey, we got to inspire ownership. Well, how do we get these folks to inspire ownership? We brought in some folks to take care of that, and we're trying to do that in business. And we were thinking that we created this common language and lexicon in our organization. How well do you think we're operating right now? That's right, because everything is all separated, right? And so it was October of 2017 that I had gone to Texas, because I say, the things that I do, and I was going in to train some middle-level managers to talk about how do they run their particular squadrons, right? So I'm going in there, and there was 3 books in this course that were being provided. And one of those books was the word mindset, right? And so I hadn't read it, so I'm like, okay, I knew a little bit about the Arbinger Institute. I had read the book Leadership and Self-Deception, but clearly it did not really resonate with me as well as I thought it would have. So I read this book. I pick it up, and on my flight to Texas, I'm reading it because that's the mothership for us for cyber. We go back to Texas. And so I'm reading this book, and I'm reading through it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. All the things that we have been trying to do over this last year, it is all beautifully, holistically, all complements and works together. And so at that time, we had like a reading program that our commander had come in and said, hey, we need to read these books. So I came back from that visit, and I came back in front of my boss, and I'm like, sir, I need you to take a look at this book. It's a potential for us to bring into the reading program. He took it home that weekend. He came back, and that was his first edict. Hey, all senior leaders, you need to read this particular book. And so we took that book, and we all started reading it. And I tell you, it was by the grace of being on that island that I found out that AMED, they were doing the outward mindset. And I heard that there was training. I'm like, what? There's training to this? And to tell you, the rest is absolutely history. We brought in a master facilitator, Mr. Cameron Cousins. He came in and started training us. And I tell you, that was like a kick, like this is Sparta right in my chest, that I was the freaking problem. Like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to do all these things in a unit, but I'm actually the one who's causing all these challenges. And we're sitting in that room, and you have to go do those 3 questions to those people that you influence, right? And that person that I was in deep collusion with who runs my operations, I go sit down and I ask those questions. And I tell you, it was just so crushing. I'm like, oh my goodness, how I'm so getting in the way of success. And that happened across, because we did it with all of our senior leaders, this training. We did outward mindset as well as OMSL at the time, right? We knocked it all out. And so as we started going through and we deployed these tools with our senior leaders, we started to just start seeing success, because the silos that existed started to melt, because folks started complementing and working with each other instead of competing with each other. And what was beautiful about that is we saw that success happening. We're like, you know what? This is something that is operating so well in this organization. We need to go ahead and deploy it across for all of our cyber COAs. Because here it is. As we come up in the service, we get training, and usually it's not on time. It's usually not on time. So after, oh man, I could have used that 5 years ago. And so we figured we would invest in our junior enlisted and our NCOs to ensure they got the same training. And then as we were going through, it was about October of 2018. We had one of our junior folks go up and deliver their 3A plus to their supervisor. And some of the statements that came out of that, right? We'd only done outward mindset throughout the organization. And some of the statements that came out of it is like, folks didn't know how to receive a 3A plus. And one of the things that was said by one of our supervisors, like, yeah, you go ahead and tell me you're in the box. You just tell me how much your rank can afford to be in the box against me. That kind of weaponizes the tools a little bit. And so there's a rank structure to what we do, but we're trying to create an environment where folks will be working well together, right? That was really our focus. And so we decided, back up real quick. Let's bring OMSL into the organization. And that's what we have done now. Anybody who's a supervisor, we are actually going and executing this. So we've created an onboarding process as folks come in, because now we do have a common language and a common lexicon in our organization. So that onboarding process, so folks to understand, this is what you're coming into, right? But here's the beauty of what has occurred as we've been working through this, is that again, we did all this work on strategy to get after all the business of what was necessary for us to do this transformation. And then all of a sudden, over the last about 9 months, it's been like, bam! We've knocked out all of our strategy that we did over 2 years ago. We've knocked it all out. We've hit them. We've exceeded them. Not only that, we have, as an organization, embraced using the outward mindset of truly what it is to be a cyber COA. And I tell you, those fixes really bottom down to, the bottom line for those is what have we actually accomplished, right? And so we have realigned our organization, roles and responsibilities, so everybody understands how they contribute to the mission, and they can see and align their individual purposes with what we do day in and day out. We've created an environment and climate where people see people as people. Now, here's the thing. I like that. I really, really do. But because we have an environment where we invite people to come and speak honestly, to have that hard conversation with folks, again, we're outward, right? And if you're having a problem or a situation with somebody, this is an opportunity, what we say in our organization, to step into leadership, to have that hard conversation about, hey, we're not agreeing or there's a challenge. And so I say I really love it because I tell you, I've had my feelings hurt. Having some junior folks come up to me and say, hey, what are you doing, Chief? And they lay into me because I was doing something wrong or I said something wrong or I came off as insensitive. And I tell you, that has helped me completely shift how I approach and what I do when I work with my folks. And I am absolutely in tune with their humanity and who they are as a person. And that is spread like wildfire fire across the organization. Because the gatekeepers of a squadron's culture is the chief, the commander, and the first sergeant. They are the gatekeepers. And so for us to make sure that we live this work, it's absolutely critical. So allowing that conversation to happen has been so key to make sure that it spreads across our organization. And we created this transparent hiring process to alleviate perceived favoritism of who would be going on. I told you we had single points of failures and these superstars in the past. But because what we have done, both on culture and strategy standpoint, we've eliminated a lot of that business. And we have candid feedback. And this is recently tested. Somebody got hired within our organization to go do a training position. And we had some senior folks come into the organization, and they asked about this thing that we do in the unit. And they talked to the person that got hired and talked to the person who did not get hired. And I tell you, you know when somebody doesn't get something that they were trying to get, usually they feel some way about it? So this senior leader's talking to these folks, and come to find out, he was blown away because he saw the genuineness. The person who got it, they were ready to take care of the job. The person who did not, they felt pleased because they got candid feedback on what they needed to do to move into the position in the future when another one opens up. And I tell you, the senior leader came to my office, he's like, what in God's name are you guys doing here? I have never seen that before. You hear about it, but I've never seen it. I had to tell him a little bit about what we were doing, right? And then on the strategy side, oh my goodness, before I told you we felt a little bit some way about being tier 2 versus tier 1. We kind of saw the bases as adversaries and didn't really see them as people, seeing that they had their challenges and their own customers, and that has completely shifted. We now see them as mission partners, also trying to achieve the same level of effects that we are trying to do from a cyber standpoint. And we are documented. We have our keyword processes documented, everything is measured, and we are smoking that across the board to make sure that we are meeting the requirements for our customers out at the bases. And those partnerships go in so many different ways, and using these tools has really helped us to ensure when we have a major outage or a major problem going on across the AFNet, or the network, should I say, the enterprise network, we come together and we will help other organizations that haven't even been exposed to this, and they see the helpfulness of all of our technicians, no matter who they're dealing with across the Air Force. And then our robust training and development program. So when I say they threw something at us, we needed to focus differently and think differently about how we train our operators and how we train our technicians to become operators, should I say, cyber operators. They threw at us, I say they being the bosses above us, right? They say, here's the vision, this is what we need to do. They threw at us a completely different way of developing our airmen. And right now I can tell you that we have been getting after this for well over a year now. And across our 4 organizations, our organization is at 93% mission ready to execute business on the network. Whereas the next closest organization is at 64% under this new training model, which ensures that we are very rigorous at how we do our business and that we ensure that we take in consideration on who we're impacting and how we take care of support across the enterprise network. And then lastly, this is a benchmark for us on our when it comes to how we grow our airmen. We have used the outward mindset, OMSL, the interview questions, and how we hire folks and develop folks within our organization in which people have been able to achieve unbelievable success are airmen, because they know that within 3 to 4 years, because we only have folks in our organization 3 to 4 years and then they move, right? They know where they're going to be in 3 to 4 years, and they can determine their own future of what that looks like. Whereas before, it would just depend on what's going on or moving people around. And everybody from the first line supervisor all the way up to the commander is involved with the development and mentorship of all of our folks. And so our folks get to choose their success because we put it all in front of them and it's all transparent. And so we've done a lot to get to this point where we're at right now. We have operational excellence, which has enabled innovation. We had a team that went and just got recognized at nearly the Air Force level. And I tell you, unbelievably proud that they developed an app and an idea to try and improve how we make sure that we are ready in case we got to get called in to do work, right? We have premier customer support for our mission partners. We have data-driven operations. We have talent management within the organization that has also helped do talent management outside the organization. So when we move folks across the Air Force, we grew folks to operate and think a certain way, and folks are like clamoring, how are you doing this? Well, we have our airman development plan to do that. We have an positive environment. It's a very positive environment, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then everyone can choose success. That's the environment we have been able to create using these tools. And we are completely primed to continue taking, because we have a whole new commander that just came on board. We are primed to take the new vision of what that new commander is going to bring to our organization and to continue being the lead, if you will, of how we take care of business at the enterprise level. So I started that when the Chief of Staff of the Air Force came and he spoke at the 2016 at the Air Force Association Conference and was talking about revitalizing squadrons and how you can sense and feel when you go into an organization of how that culture is and how they're performing, because those are directly aligned. The culture and the strategy, they're directly aligned, as you all know. I tell you, it's not about what I think. Because to be frank, yeah, it's great to be the chief, but really people don't care that I'm the chief. They just want to know that I care. Does that make sense? They just want to know that I care about them and their development. And the environment that we have, it's all about being growth-oriented, empowering our people, improving the organization and ourselves. Partnerships, it's all about making sure that we're really taking care of each other as a family. And these are the quotes from some of my folks, right? Cross sections of the different ranks in my organization. And truly, when it comes to the intangibles, because that's where this is at, you know when you go into an organization, you can sense and feel if something is right or wrong. You really can. And now, when folks come into the organization, as part of their onboarding, I won't meet with those folks until about 3, 4, or 5 weeks as they're coming to the organization, because I want them to experience what's happening in the organization. So when I ask them, how does it feel to be assigned to this organization? And all of them, wow, it's like we're a family. I am excited. My supervisor's helping me out. This is what I need to do in order for me to be successful. I know all the stuff that I need to do as I move forward in this organization, and they are just all, not just because it's Hawaii, okay? Not just because it's Hawaii, because that's where we're out of, but because they sense and feel that they're genuinely cared for. But moreover, when external visitors come, so we just recently had, in the last couple of weeks, we just had inspectors come who came and saw and looked over the programs and how we develop our people to be cyber operators. We also had some folks coming in from a technical standpoint to come look at kind of what we do and kind of annotate everything. And both of those two completely external organizations came in and said, what is going on in this organization? What is happening? We have been welcomed as inspectors. Your programs are unbelievable. The pride that people have in ownership. We have been to 5 other organizations, just like you guys, and we had never seen where people come in to deal with the problems that we're trying to describe and resolve with these teams. We've never seen where people have come together, and instead of doing, hey, that's their job, they're saying, hey, I know about that job. How can I help you out? Let's get that figured out in front of our visitors. They're not blaming anybody. They're resolving the problem right there. That wasn't in existence a couple of years ago. And the fact to have external visitors come in and validate that, every one of them I've given out so many outward mindset books. Oh my God, I give those out so much. They come in and it's like, what have you guys done? Well, this has helped build where we're at and what we're doing. And when I say we are primed for the future, I am absolutely excited for my new leadership that's coming on board, because they're going to be able to take this environment and these folks that are unbelievably prideful about being cybercoas and take us into the future. I'm excited for the team as they move forward. And I tell you, it has been a complete honor for Arbinger asking me to come and represent the cybercoas. I want to put a specific thank you to Mr. Cameron Cousin and Mr. John Sumner and their team for supporting us, because we've been pretty demanding. And thank you, Arbinger, for giving us the tools necessary to ensure that we can ensure the success of the cybercoas as we move forward into the future. Thank you.